Welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hey.
Hey, Guthrie.
So today's topic is a good one. We'll we'll dive in
All
unless
the
you have.
topics are a good one.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll
No,
dive right in unless you have
dive
anything
in.
else you want to talk about at the beginning of the show.
Dive right in. Let's
So
do
this
it.
is something that I haven't really told you a whole lot about yet.
Okay.
So this is
Right.
we're kind of gonna get your opinions as we go,
Okay.
and loosely based on an article, and I'll have to the article sort of make some points, make some thoughts, and you'll have to sort of play the agree or disagree game, which is always a
Okay.
fun game.
Yes.
And the title of the article by David Pierce is "So Where Are We All Supposed to Go Now?" And the what is it called?
In regards to what?
Is it the byline? Is it the subheader? I don't know what it is on an article. I'm not a newspaper journalist.
Yeah, it's not
so.
byline. Byline is who wrote it.
Okay, yeah.
Subtitle,
So it's not
subheading.
subheading. It's the end of a social era on the web. That's probably a good thing, but I already missed the places that felt like everyone was there.
Okay, I can't even follow. That is, he needs to go back to journalism school. I'm sorry.
No. This is a great article,
subheading.
David.
I
You
know,
don't
but
need
this.
to.
But he needs to learn how to do subheadings. Could you say the title and the subheading again? The title
So where
is,
are we all supposed to go now?
Okay, and the subheading.
It's the end of a social era on the web. That's probably a good thing, but I already missed the places that felt like everyone was there. Now,
Okay, all right. Maybe
if you read the article, it actually does make sense.
Okay.
You should briefly give a how much do you use what was affectionately called social media? There was the rise of social media.
Yeah. How much have I personally used social media?
Yeah, you don't have to go through account by account, but where did you? I mean, and by used, I mean like yes, you had a Twitter account that you for business and reasons you used, but like from a let's put the business stuff aside. Personally, are you a big social media
well,
user?
really, you want to really put the business stuff aside?
You can let's split it up. You can mention briefly if you use it for. I mean, I don't know. Using social media for business, I don't know how social that is. I feel like that's creating content.
Well,
okay, so let's break it up into personal and let's break it up.
Okay. Well, I can imagine if and I'm just imagining if there was like a chart, a visual, and at the you would rate where are you in your social media use, where at the bottom is people who don't ever use any social media at all, and at the top right, and at the top are the people who are
you're addicted adults,
you're on there all day long, and yeah. So if we looked at that, where would I fall in there?
Yeah.
I would be below the halfway mark. I think I'd be below the halfway mark, but not too far below that.
So you're
not too
you're
far
a 4
below.
out of 10.
I think that would probably be accurate for and probably both for personal and business.
Did you ever use, for example, did you ever use Twitter daily?
Yes.
Okay. So you've kind of ebbed and flowed. There was a time.
Oh, wait
in
a minute.
my
When
life,
you say use Twitter, I mean, I didn't
scrolling for content.
Yeah. Not posting necessarily.
No.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about using social media, we're just talking about engagement on the platform.
Yes. I think for a number of years, I engaged daily with multiple social media platforms. How's that?
Yeah. So I would say I'm probably in the same camp. I probably used to be a 6 out of 10. I mean, when I was in college, I used Facebook a lot.
All the time, yeah.
Every day. Law school, we had
now,
groups.
I've definitely dropped.
Chat groups. We put parties together. Instagram, I used for a while.
Yeah. I've definitely dropped.
Yeah.
In the last year.
No, same. I used to use Reddit a ton. I probably still I deleted my Reddit account and all of my comments. I have since set up like a new account that I only follow like 3 subreddits,
Yeah.
like where I go there for news that I can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
For example, the NBA subreddit, if there are trades happening or big moves in the off season, there's no sort of better place to quickly just see all the big stuff in the NBA. So I do. So so there's a couple that I still check, but for the most part, I have stopped.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first premise of this article, and you'll have to say if you sort of agree or disagree.
Okay.
Is an era of the internet is ending, and we're watching it happen in real time. So the I remember when social media was like this was like an amazing new thing, and
that now means you qualify as old.
100%. I'm well aware.
Okay. All right.
Wizened, I guess I would say.
Okay.
And so, that it was a really big deal. It was new. It was unlike
different.
Anything else. It was free. It was entertainment and content for free on a level hereto previously unseen, except for, I don't know, maybe radio.
And it was online connection at a level that was
moving at a pace so
very
rapid.
Fast.
Every couple months there was a new something. Even if you were
there was.
When I was quite young, I was on MySpace, a millennial, so I did hit that era, and even before that died, every couple months there were new features new things, and suddenly now bands are on there, and you can go listen to music videos that they would post, and then YouTube happened, and things were really rapid.
What's the statement again that he made that you want me to agree or disagree?
An era of the internet is ending, and we're watching it happen in real time. Basically, it's Twitter is falling apart. Reddit is sort of falling apart. He says TikTok remains ascendant, but there are headwinds there. Hold on. Instagram has turned into an entertainment platform, and that's an important point. We'll come back later. And nobody's on Facebook anymore. What his argument is that there was a social media era, and that era is over, and we have transitioned into something else. And I can talk more about it now, but there's just your first thoughts about the idea that it feels the internet, for as linear as it has been, it has sort of been defined by eras. I do sort of feel in my head there was before YouTube and Facebook, and Google was one era, and there was an era, there were eras before that. And then that was sort of an era. So so the first question is, do you buy that an era of the internet is ending?
I'm not sure that I do.
Okay.
I think you have to. I don't know if I would say an era is ending. I mean, there's a lot of change going on, but that happens. There's critical players that are turning to dust, but that often happens, right? I mean, like you said about MySpace, how big deal was MySpace, and then it wasn't, then it wasn't a big deal. But did that mean an era had ended? No, it's that particular product got,
Well,
and so I think products come and go. I think products change. That's not the same as the end of an era. So no, I'm not convinced I think social media is changing, but I'm not convinced it's over.
So this is, let me give you his argument.
Yeah, go ahead.
We spent the last 2 decades answering a question. What would happen if you put everyone on the planet into a room and let them talk to each other?
That's not what social media is. That's never what social media was. So if he thinks that's the end of the era, because what? Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to say what? Nobody had that goal.
I think Twitter had that goal. I don't know about the other ones.
I don't agree.
Okay. So you don't necessarily think it's an end of the era. I do sort of feel like it is the end of a something. This is maybe a better maybe a better argument. Let's pause on that. Okay. So you don't believe it's the end of an era, but I mean,
I don't think so.
Let's talk about then. Okay. So if that's not what social media was or is, what do you think it was or is? When you say social media, because in some ways, I actually really do. One of the points that he makes in his article is basically, we don't have social media anymore. We sort of just have media. And hold on. Where is this? I had it right here. It turns out there's no money in connecting people to each other, but there's a fortune in putting ads between vertically scrolling videos that lots of people watch.
Absolutely.
So the social media era is giving way to the media with a comments section era, and everything is an entertainment platform now.
But
that's sort of So that is. I know it's in semantics. I don't need to get into the semantics of it, but do you?
No. It's not a semantics. It's a point of view. It's a philosophy. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you going to ask me?
Well, I do sort of feel.
I definitely have comments on what you said.
I feel like for me, the social part of social media is no longer around. When I originally got on Facebook, 90% of the content there was content made by my social network. Ideas, pictures, thoughts, not shared, but generated by people I knew.
Okay.
And it was me talking to another person.
No,
me talking to groups of people. And now, right now, it's a content aggregator.
It's a feed.
It's a feed.
It's just a feed.
It's just a feed, like all these other feeds.
All right. So I'm going to say there are two important, large, what would I call them?
Go into you can use big social science, psychology terms.
I know. I'm trying to think what the term would be. There's two really important influences. I don't know. I don't want to use that because that sounds like influencer, and that's not what I mean at all. Look, people will use any technology that exists to be social with each other. I've said this for a lot of years. So if you invent something, if you invent a pencil, if you invent a printing press, if you put out the internet, whatever you put out there, even though maybe that's not how you thought it would be used, if there is a way to use it to connect with other people, people will do that because we are social animals. We like to connect with other people, and we look for ways to do it, and we look for tools to do it with, and that will not go away for a very long time because that's built into our evolutionary biology and psychology. So, no surprise to me that people used the technology of the internet to come up with all the social content, as you were talking about, and ways to connect. Now, so that's one very important constant thing about people. But there's another thing that affects that, and that is the need and trend and so on of large, powerful people and large, powerful organizations to do anything they can to make money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so and in some ways, those things go against each other. If you're going to be really social, you are going to be your own content creator. You are just going to want to have conversations. I don't want to have I don't want to meet you on the street and start asking you how you're doing. And in the middle of that conversation, have to watch an ad for eyeglasses. Okay. It's like, no, that's not what I'm doing. But,
or for example, why I was 90% people was content that was generated by people I knew. Why did it all stop? Because it turns out that Facebook was selling all of the data.
Oh yeah,
and the privacy stuff, right. And the privacy stuff was a disaster.
Well,
so everyone stopped.
Well, actually, that took a long time for people to stop. But The other thing that happened was just like magically, suddenly, the algorithm changed, and instead of getting stuff from the people I'm connected to, I started getting all this other stuff. So
and it's a carrot and stick thing, right? So I remember I used to, let's just say I'm sitting in class or I'm studying for class or whatever, and on Facebook I would write, oh, blah, 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 here's like a funny thing, and I would have 10 people who I knew personally,
yes,
right, knew in the real world, they would say something, this is funny, they wouldn't share it, they were just like, we were having a conversation back and forth,
conversation.
So I would have the social carrot to do it again, to make more stuff.
Yes.
And then what happened is they changed the feed.
Yes.
And it all went away and no one saw it. And then it's like, well, why am I wasting my time?
Right.
Right. And then it cycles.
Except it's still, for whatever reason, they obviously have enough data coming in that tells them that there's still enough eyeballs to make it worth it. So so you have these things that I think are ultimately at odds with each other. So you have the power and the money so you have and this happens. I mean, this is just what happens. You have, and I don't know that I have the knowledge to go into the forces of power, money, and business, that why this always goes this way.
Can I mention something from the article about this that might explain it?
Well, I think you end up with this consolidation, and that goes against the social connection part of it. But so that's what I have to say about that.
The article says, why is this all happening right now? Lots of reasons, actually, most of them at least somewhat defensible. The economy has gone sour, and after more than a decade of low interest rates and access to nearly unlimited and nearly free money, companies are finding their funding sources to be fewer and more finicky than ever. Those investors are asking for real returns on that funding. So all these companies have had to switch from growth at all costs to actually make some money. Few social networking companies have ever made real money, and they're scrambling for new features and giving 2 hours.
No, totally don't agree.
Okay.
Totally don't agree. My view on it is there's a constant pressure to get money and get power. And
Facebook figured this out 15 years ago.
Yeah.
There's no money actually in connecting people.
No, there's money. Well, interestingly, I guess as they initially thought there's money in, there may not be money in connecting people, but I mean, they made a lot of money on advertising. I mean, I don't know that they, I don't give these companies that much business smarts that they were thinking 15 years ahead. I think the companies...
not 15 years ago. That's when Facebook made the change to, we actually want people, we want to push people for whatever reason. I don't know why they did it, but they decided we need to push people away from connecting with each other, and we need to push people towards sharing clips from other places in the internet. And that's the traffic that we need.
Yeah.
For what I don't know why they
Whatever.
did it.
But I think it's always, I think all these companies look, they want to consolidate power and they want to make as much money as possible in as short a time period as possible. I don't think they have long-term horizons, most of them, in terms of making money. So yeah. And that's why I think it was inevitable. I don't think it has anything to do with the economic winds of change or any of that. I just think this is what we do. This is what we do all the time, and so, including with technology.
It is interesting. It's sort of like a water, flows the downhill in the most direct route. It's interesting that the biggest, what used to be the biggest, quote, social media companies, that where people were communicating with other people, and not, which is different than content consumption.
Yes.
So you do agree that there's a difference between, and you could do both on the same platform, but yes, there's a difference between having a conversation between people or multiple people, having a social interaction, and just consuming content.
Yes.
So it is. So the biggest, the biggest social media companies, MySpace, only did the connection and they went out of business. Facebook did the connection and they pivoted to media consumption. Yep. Instagram did the connection, where it was like Instagram's an interesting one because it was social media, but like it was like sharing. It was like it was sharing time, right? Like I took this cool picture and then you took a cool picture, and we're sort of comparing our pictures with each other, which is a little bit of content consumption. But anyone who's used earlier Instagram would know it's totally different now. Yeah. And they pivoted towards content consumption.
Yes.
With the stories and with just accounts that just basically show you TikTok videos. So Instagram moved to content consumption. Now, those two are both Meta companies. YouTube used to be a lot more like, I'm just sitting in front of a camera. Here's like, I took a picture of a bunny and certain things would go viral. And so there was always a level of content consumption there. But I do feel like it was a little smaller scope. And now it's a media platform where very large, media conglomerates would, ABC News or, large form, whatever. So they transitioned to content consumption. TikTok has always been content consumption first. Yeah, they have a comments section, but I mean, whatever. But it's definitely designed for content consumption.
Correct.
Snapchat sort of straddles the line. So this is where things get a little more interesting, is the texting apps that are designed literally for messages. Snapchat has tried to get into the content consumption game. They have companies that do, they were making like content. They were like developing shows and stuff for Snap. I don't know if that ever really went anywhere. So they tried. I don't know how much they succeeded. So it's interesting that all of these major social media companies, at some point in their lifetimes, they either fell apart or they realized we need to become a content consumption app, and they've all become the exact same app, really, in some.
What do you think? Where does Twitter fall in this?
I don't use Twitter enough to really know. I would imagine they probably see the same thing. I think Twitter used to be a lot of tweets, and I think it's a lot of videos and links and funny stuff. And I think it's a lot less just people saying stuff and then people responding to what they're saying. Yeah. I could be wrong. I think there's a lot more content in there. But Twitter's an interesting case, because they were never very profitable compared to the other companies. They were always sort of confused. So it's possible that they sort of straddled the line a little bit. And Lord knows that a lot of the interactions that were happening on Twitter were not particularly healthy or good. So, it's not. I do think there's a difference between having a conversation with a neighbor on a street and like throwing a tomato at someone chained in the stockades. Like Twitter's very much like throwing a tomato at someone chained in the stockades in the town square. Like someone says something and, from the crowd, you're just like, you're dumb, you chuck a tomato up there and it hits him in the face. So I don't know if that's really, like, yeah, I guess like if you like berate someone from the side of the road as you throw garbage at them, have you just had a social interaction? I
And
guess so.
And how do you monetize that? Right.
Yeah. But, but I wouldn't necessarily, that I guess that's a social interaction, but on the social interaction hierarchy, that's pretty low on Twitter. And not to say that there's not spaces on Twitter where that does happen, but given, like I said, neither of us, I've never really been a big Twitter user, so I can't really speak to people who use Twitter. People who use Twitter all the time are like, they really like want Twitter to be good. Like they really cheer for Twitter. They like, they have this, they really like it, or they really like what it could be. My understanding is that it has been pretty bad because people who use Twitter just sort of complain about it constantly. So it can't be all that great because people are just desperate for it to be good. So either it was good, now it's not, or it never was good. I don't know. So, what do you? I think you're probably right that human beings will use anything for social interaction, but social interaction is actually not in the best interest of these companies because social interaction doesn't make you any money.
It can be, I mean,
Facebook used to have a little ad.
You can harness parts of it.
Like a banner ad. Facebook used to have little banner ads.
Right.
And then everyone figured out how to block it with an ad blocker. And, so they're like, okay, we need ads in the feed now. We need to interrupt your social interactions with ads. So it's, yeah. So this is it's an interesting problem. So I do sort of feel like in some ways, I guess I do sort of agree. So his premise is like, it's the end of the social era on the web, insofar as there used to be these places where you could have social interactions with other people online. And all of those places are basically dead now, and it's all just content consumption spaces. And like, where is the close social interaction where you're going to make a new friend? Where does that exist now online? And he sort of mentioned some other things because maybe that's transitioning to like messengers, right? So there's apps, platforms that are developed for just talking back and forth, and maybe that's where that's happening. He mentions, Discord is one where people with different interests can sort of get in a Discord together, though that's if you have like 1,000 people in a Discord, it's a mess because it's live, it's not sticky, right? So it's just like a wall of 1,000 messages. And if you get on a voice, I have been on a Discord voice server with like a couple thousand people when an album of a band that they love dropped, and there's like 100 people talking at a time. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's discordant
That's good. That's very good. Yes, very nice.
Thank you.
There's WhatsApp and Signal and Telegram. They have channels where you can sort of have a bunch of, you can follow people and they can send messages to large groups of followers. But that's not really social. That's sort of a news feed.
All right, so here's the question then. Do you think that And I guess this is the end
There
of
was
the
Google
era.
Circles.
I guess there's
They died.
and this is the end of the era question. I mean, do you think that some things will come up that will replace these other things and play that role somewhat until it gets taken over by a large organization that then monetizes it? Or do you think we're really done?
Well, it's tough, man. There was back in the day. This is a quote that Tony Kornheiser makes fun of a lot. It's a very inside joke, but the era of unbridled optimism. So, back when all that stuff first got invented, people were using the mental model of a party.
Yeah.
And it was fun and it was exciting and you could meet new people and people were very open and trusting and they were open to meeting new people online. This was cool. And then they got burned like 40 times and people are very not trusting online. And if there's a new service, I mean, so these companies have so little goodwill that people expect that you're just going to burn them and that you will, things will fall apart. Everyone thought that Reddit was going to be sort of the last bastion where, okay, because forever they had sort of resisted the monetize. And, they're doing it now and people on Reddit feel it and they conceive it and people, it's like, okay. So, I mean, I think people's mental models is no longer a meeting someone at a party, which is a fun, very safe experience. And now their experience, now their mental model is startup VC, like get people on the platform and then monetize it. TikTok's the same way. If you use TikTok early, there were like 1 or 2 ads every so and so often. It was really focused on the content, and now there's just ads everywhere and it's focused on promoting virality for golden accounts that I don't know, people have some sort of sponsorship deal with. It's just different. So I don't know. It's really hard for me. So like, let's look at Google Circles. Google Circles was awesome. It was a really cool concept, which they did a bunch of research back when Google was doing cool things. They did a bunch of research about how people's social circles actually exist. And what they found...
You do know that I spent an hour on the phone with them.
Oh yeah, you did?
Yeah. They wanted advice on social circles for this new thing they were doing.
I thought they did a really great job. Basically, what they discovered is that the way people have social groups is you don't just have one social group like Facebook or Twitter. What you have is you have different circles. So you have a really tight-knit, close group of friends. Then you have, sort of a broader set of friends that they're friends, but they're just friends, not like your close group. And then you have sort of broader acquaintances. And then after that, friends of friends, people you're friendly with, but like you don't know much about them, but you're open to becoming more friends. And so what Google Circles allowed you to do was it allowed you to kind of say whatever you wanted, but you could adjust which group had access to which things. So if you had just the close group of friends, the dog pound or whatever it was, you could sort of you could just kind of exist in the same space as you could with the broad group. And so some stuff, it was just for some people. So it was a really interesting way of sort of communicating and organizing, and it never got off the ground because they lost to Facebook. And I don't know how you would ever make any money doing like something like that. And I don't think you could get everyone in your world to join a single app like that ever again. So because before, like nothing had really ever existed. So it's entirely possible that unless some company gets very lucky or has some sort of differentiation that I don't see, I don't know if it's, I mean, I'm not going to say never, but in the next, decade or two, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. So that's why I kind of do think it's the end of an era. And that's why this guy, he says, he said, maybe we should all embrace the downfall of social networks. But even before this era fully ends, before Twitter and Reddit turn into MySpace and FriendFeed, it basically disappeared from my life. I find myself longing for what they once were. Still are, maybe, just not for long. I miss everybody, and I don't know if I'll ever find them again. So there are some people who really need that connection, and they turn to the internet to find that connection, and they're not able to find it because where would you go to make friends online? Not to say that it's impossible, but it is. There's not sort of one place anymore. If a teenager came to me and said, "Hey, I want to make friends online," where would you point them? How would you do that? I mean, and the best way is to like find something really niche, like a video game that like 100 people play or something, right? So some card game or some very obscure band, or like you have to find something where there's basically, very small, and then get on the Discord and just like make friends with people who have a very bizarre, unique, similar interest. But so yeah, that's why it does sort of feel like the end of an era, to me at least. Does any of that, you buying any of that? So getting back to our crucial point, companies need to monetize. There's not any money in making social networks. So how are people going to have a social network online? And maybe the answer is they're not. Maybe they got burned online from these big companies and they're just done. And they're like, who I'm going to make friends with? The other people in my cul-de-sac. I'm going to text. I'm going to make friends in person. I'm going to make friends at work. I'm going to, we're going to have a group text thread. And that's what my online social presence is going to be. And like I'm just done being social online, and I'll use online for
that is being social online.
Well, that's not using social media. That's just
Correct.
using
texting technology tools.
Yeah. Yes, just using to mimic the ancient arts of
walking down the street and knocking on the door
and sending letters to each other.
Because back in the day, if I'm allowed to make these stupid back in the day comments, when I was a kid growing up, literally kids would come to the door and knock on the door, and a grown-up would answer the door, and the kid would say, can Susan come out and play? Or even, I see you just moved into the neighborhood. Do you have any kids? I mean, that people would just knock on the door. That's what you did. And sometimes some kids would just go in the street with a ball, and then other kids would see them and go outside and join them in the street. So
it was a different era because everyone in these in these new subdivisions, everyone had kids. There were a lot of children running around.
There were a lot of children running around, but so the question I guess I have for you is, if it's not going to be, if the social activity is not going to happen on these social media platforms that a lot of it was happening on, do you think that, okay, so then we do have a modern era event that changed behavior, which was the pandemic, which we're now, have
Yeah.
come out of or are coming out of. But that changed a lot of behavior as
Yeah.
well. So do you think, though, that what we're going to have is, because people are not going to stop being social, okay? They're not for
And I would say
thousands
they
of
crave
years.
it, and it's a problem. People think it's a problem right now that they don't have enough social connection, and they
Right. So
are
do you
frustrated
think
by
they're
that.
going to just literally leave their house or apartment and go somewhere and start meeting up with people at places and events and spaces and
Well, one thing people who are listening should understand is I think a lot of times um, large scale social change in the actions of people takes much longer than the time scale of that kind of stuff is just really, really long, much longer than almost anything else. So there are patterns and trends that might be, changing in society, and it can take 10 or 20 years for that to ripple through. So people not being trustful of large tech organizations, like it doesn't just happen overnight. It takes like 20 years for society to have that shift. And so we may be in the middle of a shift where people are hey, let's actually hang out in person. Let's switch. Let's get off social. Be only hanging out online is kind of not working. Let's do that. I don't know if that's happening, but it could take 20 years. We might be in year 5 of that. I don't know. So these sort of changes take a lot of time. 20, 30, 40 years. You look at something like interracial dating. It took like 2 generations to kind of trickle its way through. Like these things take a really long time. And so they're often reactionary, but that reaction, it takes decades for the institutions to get set up.
Okay, I will predict, however,
Yeah.
that yeah, I think what you're saying is really interesting, and I think that's probably at play. I will also predict that another tool is going to come along.
You would think, right?
It will. It will. That will at least initially be different, or will present itself as being different, and will eventually fall prey to all the same stuff as all the other ones. But
Maybe.
I think there will be a new generation of tools that come out. I don't know how
There seems to
successful
be a
they'll be,
demand.
but yeah,
Yeah.
someone's gonna try and fill the void. That's my guess.
One of the other problems is just in general, and maybe this is the shift that needs to happen, is the understanding of media consumption. So right now, I think people were tricked. They thought they were doing social interactions, and they got tricked into doing media consumption.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, it might take 10 years, might take 20 years, but the idea that Facebook, it's not for talking to your friends, it's just a feed for media,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all the other feeds. Then people, and I think that's starting to happen now. People are going to be like, wait, okay, well, let me think holistically about actually where do I want to get my media from? Because if you take away the social aspect, there's a lot of places to do media consumption. That's YouTube
Yeah.
and TikTok and
A lot.
abcnews.com. So so if you just sort of think from that bigger, broader picture, then people might be like, wait a second, why am I on Facebook for this? There's apps that do this, whatever it is I
Yeah.
want, much better. And maybe that's
Yeah, I
fitting.
think that's definitely happening.
So there's a demand for social networks to be
Yes.
leveraged.
Yes.
But maybe that demand is met by meetup.com or the local cul-de-sac community, area organization or something.
Yeah. So we're going to start a new app, Guthrie. I'm always coming up with new app ideas and you just shake your head. We'll call it Block Party. How's that?
I think that one's already taken.
Oh, shoot.
Sorry.
I'm always late.
Yeah.
I'm always late.
The last thing I'll say before we stop here, I do think that one of the perks of having that interaction in person is that you actually everyone can see it. If you put a sign on your block that says garage sale, anyone on your street can see that there's a garage sale. And right now, so like Nextdoor, okay? Nextdoor is an app that everyone can use and you connect with just people in your local neighborhood. But if, I don't know, most people aren't on Nextdoor. So if most people are on it, then you can't, and that's the same problem that everyone has. If you're not if you're not in the space, right, then you're missing out. And the thing that being in person still has an advantage for is that everyone is in the same app at the same time, which is real life.
Right. So profound, Guthrie.
All right, let's wrap it up.
I like that. I'm going to take that quote. Can you send that to me in a text, or I guess I could just write it down and be old school, but I like that as a quote.
I'll send you an email.
All right. Hey, interesting conversation. Thanks for bringing up this topic.
You're very welcome.
And if anyone wants to reach us, Guthrie, they can do so with technology.
Emailing info@theteamw.com. One last little piece of logistics. It's the summer, so hopefully we have some episodes banked up and there won't be any gap when you're listening to this. It is possible that things might get happen not live, or you might have.
I'm taking some time off.
You're taking some time off. People are on vacation. So we'll keep trying to. We've had a really good recording cadence. I've been very happy about that since I got back. But we will try to keep that up and continue to have good conversations. Thank you so much. I will talk to you later.